Hello and welcome aboard WhalePod to another Genshin Impact video. I'm your Captain Whale, and in this video we are going to be going over in a review fashion Raiden Shogun, as her rerun banner and Ayato's rerun banners are imminent. Tomorrow we will be reviewing Ayato. As always, I'm your Captain Whale. So, once the bird, which I do believe now represents the Wanderer, flies off, let's get into the details. My Raiden Shogun is abysmal on the stats-wise, except for her energy recharge, which is right in the 270-280 range you want it to be. I am not going for an Elemental Master build on my Raiden Shogun, but they are viable now, and I will briefly mention those as well, even if I use a more traditional Raiden team for the Abyss 12 showcase. Crit rate of 60% roughly is right about the right around the bottom tier of acceptable crit rate ranges. However, crit damage of 73 is absolutely abysmal. It has been a while since I have gone through the Emblem of Severed Fate domain with the clear intent of getting upgrades for Raiden Shogun, so my artifacts are still rather poor on her as a whole. However, I make up for it with high refinement on her signature weapon and maximum constellation. Energy recharge is the main stat that makes Raiden Shogun tick, so you want as much of it as possible. Ideally 300%, or 270 to 280 if you have engulfing lightning like I do. I also am not running an elemental goblet on my Raiden because I do believe she has a talent that will convert energy recharge into electro damage. As for my weapon, I am using her signature and best in slot engulfing lightning. It is energy recharge substatted and gives her attack a attack percent boost based on percentage of her energy recharge over the base of 100. You can gain a maximum bonus of 120% attack, and you gain 50% energy recharge for 12 seconds after using an elemental burst. So with that 50% recharge gain, we are at 330, which is more than enough to get us the full 120% attack when in burst. Other weapon choices that are good for her. Switch menu here, not the Ascend. Of course, the catch is a good free-to-play, or in this case, fish-to-play option for Raiden Shogun. It is quite difficult to obtain, more difficult than the Sumeru fishing bow, as the Sumeru fishing spots have lots of the required fish at pretty much every fishing spot, whereas the fish needed for the catch and its refinement materials are the rare fish, and only spawn at a few fishing spots per region. Other good, really strong weapons for Raiden Shogun, of course, Staff of Homa is just absolutely unbalanced. A total power creep weapon, should have never been released in the state it's in, and is just a generally good stat stick on any DPS polearm character, or any support polearm character, or just any polearm character. I don't think they've made one that wouldn't at least want something from Staff of Homa. Yunjin maybe, but aside from that, maybe not. If you're really desperate, Skyward Spine is a energy recharge weapon, or I should say, not necessarily desperate, but just if you happen to have a spine and don't like fishing, well, there's this option for you. Favonius Lance is another energy recharge weapon, although its energy recharge numbers are low enough that you maybe won't want it on a not just maybe don't want it, I would go as far as to say you don't want it on a DPS Raiden, and you might want to pass over it for a higher energy recharge percentage weapon, like the catch on a support Raiden. As far as other 5 stars go, I'm not sure about how... Let's see. When an elemental skill hits opponents, she does cast her skill pretty much every time it's off cooldown. I don't really think Staff of Scarlet Sands is all that good on Raiden, though. That's useless on her, in my opinion. Well, it's not useless on her, but it's very low value compared to other options. Jade Wing Spear requires normal attack hits, which her burst does not do normal attack hits, and if you're outside of her burst, you're typically not normal attacking with her, so no Jade Wing Spear there. Like I said, I don't know too much about the Elemental Mastery Raiden builds that are coming out for use on stuff like Aggravate or Hyper Bloom or whatever. But maybe Dragon's Bane is decent now. It's not optimal because she's not applying the elements that boost damage from the refinement skill. But yeah, aside from that, I don't think there's any 3-star that works on Raiden. So yeah, I'd recommend highly the Catch, her signature weapon. If you can snag it, do not go out of your way to get it. If you haven't, maybe Skyward Spine can finally find a home on your Raiden Shogun. Staff of Homa is broken, but there are, of course, better polearm users for it than Raiden. And maybe Deathmatch if you're really struggling to get crit rate. And maybe Blackcliff Pole if you're really struggling to get crit damage and don't have a Staff of Homa. And maybe Dragon's Bane. I don't know how the Elemental Master Raidens work, but I'd say Air for something that has energy recharge over something that has... Well, not necessarily over something that has EM, but definitely over a Dragon's Bane. Yeah, so that's how I'd rate it. I'd rate number 1, number 2, number 3, 4, 5. Yes, you heard that right. I will put the Skyward Spine ahead of the Favonius Lance because the Favonius Lance doesn't give her as much personal energy recharge, which... Like I said, she does have elements in her kit where she just wants as much personal energy recharge as possible. Not necessarily just energy from particles, but physically having energy recharge on her. So, while the energy generation is still great, it does have less value on Raiden than on others because of that. And yeah, that's what I think I would use on her. Or, of course, these two if you just need to balance out her ratio a bit. But yeah, weapons on Raiden are pretty straightforward. She's actually probably one of the narrower weapon users for polearms because she does want that energy recharge as much as possible. Now we're going to go into artifacts. Of course, her best in slot is going to be the 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate. If you're not using 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate, well, get 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate. If you're going to do a 2-piece, you're pretty much always going to want 2-piece Emblem on her. For that, energy recharge boost. Once again, Raiden does function very much off of energy recharge. I don't know, maybe the Aggravate or Elemental Mastery team or Raidens would want either a Gilded Dreams or a Thundering Fury. This is the Bloom set, not really worth it for Raiden. Animo set, not really worth it. Not worth it, not worth it. Shimenawa's is terrible. Never use Shimenawa's, particularly not on a burst-centric character. Don't even use it on a character that disregards their burst. Yeah, Thundering Fury is probably, I'd say, probably the best 4-piece option, aside from a Emblem of Severed Fate for Raiden, but you're going to need to really have the energy recharge on substats in order to get everything Raiden wants. I mean, my Raiden has Engulfing Lightning with 55%. She has an energy recharge Sands with another 51%. You just need a lot of energy recharge to just maximize everything on Raiden. And yeah, I don't think anything else in this list here is really worth it. Gladiators won't even boost her burst buff to normal attacks because they are considered burst damage. However, that means Noblesse Oblige's 2-piece would, but I would still recommend sticking to either 4-piece Thundering Fury, 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate, maybe 4-piece Gilded Dreams. I don't know enough about Aggravate Raiden to know what Aggravate Raiden wants. Constellations. Here's the real elephant in the room for all y'all who may be considering wishing on her banner for more than just the first time. Raiden havers who want to make their Raiden better. Well, you better be prepared to at least go to C2, because C1 helps her gain resolve faster, which means when she does unleash her burst, it'll be slightly stronger. But Steelbreaker is the massive jump up for her burst, as it means 60% of the damage from that will just straight up ignore defense, essentially just giving you a massive DPS boost as your damage isn't being... Well, for the most part, your damage isn't being cut down by defense. And if you can stretch to C3, C3 is kind of the absolute sweet spot because that will give you 3 extra levels of scaling on her burst. Her Constellation 4 isn't really worth it. I don't really think many 5 stars have C4s that are really worth that much spent on them. 5 is 3 levels to her skill. Once again, it's about as worth it as Pledge of Propriety, which is when her burst expires, all nearby party members, excluding the Shogun, gain 30% attack for 10 seconds. At least Ito's Constellation 4 is kind enough to give the attack and defense bonuses to himself as well. Constellation 6 is interesting, and it's pretty unique in that it's the only way to reduce the cooldown on elemental bursts in the game, but with the colossal amount of money needed to get a Constellation 6, particularly if this is your first banner wishing for Raiden Shogun, is definitely not worth it. It is unique, and maybe if you've gotten some Raidens on both of her previous banners, and maybe you have C2 or C3 already, and you're going, okay, I just want a really, 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 really good unit, well, the 5-second cooldown reduction that you can get here, because it is limited to 5 seconds, each time it triggers, it will reduce all other party members, not including the Shogun herself's elemental burst cooldown by 1 second, and this effect can trigger once every 1 second and can trigger a total of 5 times. So with it triggering 5 times 1 second per time, that is 5 seconds shaved off of the other 3 characters in your party's burst cooldowns, for essentially shaving 15 seconds off the whole party's burst cooldowns collectively. It is pretty darn cool. I still would not recommend, unless you're really committing to the Raiden Shogun train, going for the C6. And for lighter spenders out there, maybe even only going there if you already have Constellation 3. If you're at Constellation 2, maybe try and get 3 and then stop there. Talent level ups. I've leveled up normal attack origin because I'm a big dum-dum, and Raiden Shogun was one of the first characters I obtained in this game, and still did not realize that you don't necessarily want to level up everything on a character when I was first leveling her up. Her multipliers on her base normal attack are pretty darn low, I'd have to say. And in all honesty, you don't need them because you just replace them with these multipliers when she's in her burst state. Of course, as we have the talent reference here, the talent reference here is absolutely right for once. First priority level up is the burst, second priority level up is the skill, and just don't throw anything into the normal attack. Don't be like me, be better than me. That's why I'm making these videos. Now we have her Ascension talents. When nearby party members gain elemental orbs or particles, she will gain more resolve stacks. Resolve is part of her burst, that when elemental particles, elemental bursts, and I think even elemental reactions are triggered, she'll build up resolve stacks, and then she'll unleash them to boost the damage of the initial Muso no Hitatachi base hit. Yeah, so it's this gets you a little extra energy when gaining elemental particles or orbs, and the base is just by using elemental bursts, which you get stacks per point of energy consumed. I don't exactly remember how many resolve stacks it caps at. Maybe it'll say here. Maximum number is 60 stacks. So yeah, I believe Constellation 1 will bring electro-elemental bursts up to giving like a cool 1-to-1. Or no, not a cool 1-to-1, but enough of a ratio that 3 electro bursts is enough to fully charge it. And other bursts, you will still get a small boost, but it does favor electro more than any other element for the Constellation 1. Yeah, these for 1 hit through 5 hit and charge attack and plunge attack multipliers will replace your normal attack origin, so once again, completely ignore normal attack origin and just focus on leveling your burst as much as possible. The Baleful Omen here has actually been going up in value ever since Dendro released. It was always useful just to perpetually mark whatever target you hit with Electro, even if it did have some limitations, like not proccing if your hit collides with a shield, for instance, making it completely useless at shield breaking abyss mages that react with electro. However, another benefit of it is it does have a 25-second uptime on a 10-second cooldown, so it has a 100% uptime. Her A4 passive, which you will get when ascending to 60 of 70, is each 1% above 100% energy recharge that the Raiden Shogun possesses, grants her 0.6% greater energy restoration during her burst, and 0.4% electro damage bonus. So there's why I do not run a electro damage goblet on the Raiden Shogun, because elemental damage bonus does hit diminishing returns pretty quickly, and at 280% energy recharge, essentially 180 over the cap, I'm getting a decent enough amount from Enlightened One. And her passive talent makes it cheaper to ascend swords and polearms, which is always nice to save little resources. But of course, you should always be pulling a character for their combat capabilities, and Raiden Shogun's combat capabilities are pretty nutty. And of course, she is born in the best month of the year to be born in, the month of June, so there's that as well. Now that we've gone over a brief showcase of the Raiden Shogun, let's get into an Abyss 12 top half run featuring the Raiden Shogun. Now, we're going to be facing down the Legos, then some Doritos and a desert archer girl, and then the chicken mushroom skewers. So, for this top half, we're going to put together probably the most meta team I've ever used in the form of Raiden Hypercarry, which is, of course, a Raiden Shogun, Kazuha, Bennett, and Sara, and it focuses just on boosting Raiden Shogun's personal damage as much as absolutely possible, and utilizing Raiden Shogun's insane energy battery capabilities to keep the pain train moving. Even though you're not going to see it, I'm going to put my usual Pupper Snake Ito team in the second half. I have also seen Moga's run of the Abyss on Bones' account specifically, where, because Bones, Moga's girlfriend, for those of you who do not follow Moga as well, I guess we can't do our typical Ito team, so instead of Bennett, we're gonna have, we still need a healer, we're gonna go Kokomi for a little bit of electro charging in there as well. For those of you who are not that familiar with Moga, Bones is another, I don't know how much actual creation does, or if she more just piggybacks off of Moga, but Bones and Moga are dating, so Moga will often splurge on Bones' account for her, and she ended up getting Constellation 2 Wanderers, so of course Moga did a video testing Constellation 2 out on her account. And well, the C2 Wanderer was actually able to consistently hit and deal damage to the flying pupper snake, just like my Yaimiko can. And one of y'all has also commented on my Abyss run, doubly confirming this same instance there of Wanderer being able to easily deal with the pupper snake. Although you also had Constellation 2, so I'm going to go ahead and say I would only recommend Wanderer against the pupper snake at Constellation 2 and above, because the extra damage boost on that burst can just serve to nuke it out of orbit a little bit. Looks like we're gonna get a little bit of elemental mastery on this team that doesn't need it at all.
There is no escape. One with nature. Teamwork is dreamwork. Glory to the Shogun. Gaining the upper hand.
As one with wind and cloud.
Well, isn't that mean of you, Lego cubes?
Illusion shattered. Now you shall perish.
And we're making quick use of this thing with the Hypercarry build here. We already have our burst back once a soft cooldown. Can't really say the same about these idiots, though, unfortunately.
Strike! Venture!
One with nature.
Alright, this is gonna be the lucky Lego cube here.
I'm going in! There is no escape.
Clouds high. The birds call. The wind knows me.
Inazuma shines eternal.
Now, we will show this thing the true meaning of pain.
Shine down. Let's light it up. Quiver.
Wind strider.
Torn to oblivion.
And just barely don't get it down before it is regenerating. But now that we're on the other side, we'll be back when we're on the next chamber. And we will be entering floor 12, chamber 2 now. Yeah, the Raiden Shogun hyper carry team is not necessarily one that I have too much experience playing,
There is no escape.
One with nature.
but it's definitely the only meta team that I really enjoy playing because a Raiden hyper carry is just...
Illusion shattered. Inazuma
It's
shines
just such
eternal.
I mainly play it because I think it's a lot cooler a concept than just the
Shine down.
standard Raiden National. I don't like Shang Ling and not too big of a fan of Xing Cho. Yes, I know they're good characters, I just don't like them.
The wind knows me.
Now
Where do you think
shall
you're
perish. There is no escape. Everybody stand back. That's gonna hurt.
Goodbye.
A little bit clunkier, but we got through in plenty of time for Ito to rip through the pupper here. And we're back well within the 3-star time limit still for our final chamber. Now, we're finally getting something remotely useful for Ito on the other side here.
Strike! Glory to the Shogun!
Clouds high. The birds call.
Illusion shattered! Let's light it up! Off we go! I'm going in! Inazuma shines eternal!
Alright, Doom Shroom here.
There is no
Already
escape.
recharged on Raiden here.
Storm the front! Teamwork is dreamwork!
Fallen leaves. Adorn my...
Torn to oblivion!
And die, chicken. That is a dead chicken. Now, we're going to end the video here, but I am going to go ahead and just re-3-star this chamber here. But thank you all for watching. If you did like this brief review of the Raiden Shogun, make sure to like and subscribe if you have not done so already in order to trigger a reaction known as getting more of my content into your hands. And do feel free to leave a comment down below. With that out of the way, I hope you all are having fantastic days, WhalePod, and make sure to stay cool, stay classy, and most importantly, stay healthy. But until next time, this is Captain Whale, signing off.